at 8.5% every year for the last 20 years.
So in a sense, the city of Providence is engaging in payday lending.
I think that's a fair. I mean, that's the VIG, right? That's what we're talking about is the VIG.
No, they're actually paying though. They're actually the borrower. They're paying. They're paying your tax dollars at 8.5%. My question would be, if you had a cash flow problem, which they obviously did, if you had a cash flow problem, why wouldn't you go out and borrow through the normal channel? Rates at those times during all those periods were 4, 4.5, 5. Now they're closer to 3, and they're still doing it. They're doing it right now. They're paying 8.25% interest rate until October to pay late. Why aren't they out in the markets and borrowing? And I suggest the reason is they know what they're doing is illegal, and they don't want anybody to look at their books.
So when you borrow money short term like that for an actual rate of 8%, because that's in a sense the discount becomes the effective rate on an annualized basis, that's actually a lot more, isn't it?
No, it's annual. It's annualized 8.25%.
Okay, so it's annualized at 8.25%. All right. So flash forward now. This has been the source of litigation with the fire department.
Well, the fire department, the union head, Paul Dowdy, at one point said he didn't care whether this was happening or not, and then said he was going to sue. He never did sue. So, in effect, what really is happening is that Dowdy is the only one of the three groups that's paying attention to this, the ones that are harmed. But all three have been harmed. And the fourth being the taxpayer. The taxpayer's been harmed here. So what Paul Dowdy's concerned about, and I think it's a legitimate concern, is that if he were to file the suit, it might trigger a bankruptcy, which the union does not want, because they know the city doesn't have the money.
Right, and they'll take a haircut in the extreme.
A much bigger haircut in a bankruptcy than they would by letting the $62 million just go away.
Right.
So that's very shady.
Now, in terms of recently, the city of Providence went out for a general obligation bond, correct?
Yes, they did. And I wrote that they did not disclose the default in Providence and the true financial condition of their capital city.
Now, impress upon the listeners the importance of accurately stated financial statements and disclosures for the two obvious reasons. And talk to me about the ramifications. The first reason, of course, is that anyone loaning money to the city needs to be aware of, and by the way, the SEC and the federal government has laws about this, of the true financial nature of the state. And number two, because of just how much litigation should default take place, are they actually exposing the city and the government to by said investors? I mean, impress upon them the importance of that.
Well, there are several groups, including a group that opted out of the Providence pension reform under Mayor Taveras a few years ago, who now take a look at what's going on here, which is basically default, and realize that whole reform was negotiated with false numbers. Those numbers were not anywhere near to what the actual financial condition of the city of Providence. So that entire pension reform in the city of Providence ought to be vacated, and it was Carter Taft, I believe, who approved on it. And that thing should just be thrown out, in my opinion. And I know their lawyers are looking at this. But the second thing is, these are all federal securities laws. When you issue bonds to municipal investors, 76% of municipal investors are individuals. They're mom and pop. So municipal investors are mom and pop. And when you lie in your statement and you make up false assets, which is what Providence has done for many, many years, or even if you're the governor and the treasurer of the state and you know what's going on and you include these numbers in numbers you're putting out, they're all subject to federal crime. Federal securities laws are under the SEC. It has nothing to do with the state.
Right, and these are individual crimes. This is not just one of those things that can be thrown up against a city and, you sign some sort of consent decree and agree to disagree and agree to hush it up and here's some money, it goes away. I mean, the folks who sign off on these statements, I mean, there's a fiduciary guarantee there, isn't there?
Well, no. The public pension plans have managed to separate themselves from ERISA, which was the pension for the private side. They are subject. They would actually be behind bars, already. And this accounting scheme that Providence is very Enron-like in nature. And so in the Enron case, Ken Lay, who had nothing to do with the accounting scheme, but signed off on it in the end, was sentenced to prison. He didn't quite get there because he died the year before. But, I mean, he signed off on everything, and Sarbanes-Oxley was all about the guy at the top of the line approved of all the financial and ought to take responsibility. Right now, Alorza is not taking responsibility, even though he didn't have anything to do with it.
Right. It's almost like a governmental RICO investigation.
Well, and you remember, they hired all kinds of accountants over the years who had to look at what I was looking at and say, what's going on here? I wonder how that happened, that it got passed by every year. I wonder how our Auditor General, Hoyle, did it. So there's a lot to explain.
I have to ask, the State Department of Revenue has crawled up the proverbial rear ends of cities like Woonsocket, West Warwick, East Providence, Pawtucket, probably more to come down the line. Why does Providence seem to get a pass on this? I mean, why do we hear about these like massive shortfalls and weird accounting and things being kind of swept under the rug and moved from one account to the other and moved from one column to the other? Why do you think that the city of Providence gets a pass on these things?
I think things are so bad there, and it's the same reason we passed a law in 2011, 2012 to give municipal bondholders first lien on tax revenue. The state and the powers that be knew that we were about to have a domino of 6 or 7 cities, including Providence, go bust. And so now it's like their dirty little secret. But the secret's becoming a little bit bigger, and the problems are growing rapidly. And, 1 or 2 down years in the stock market will destroy several cities in town and put the state actually in critical status again.
Wow. So
I don't know why they get away with it.
I live in Woonsocket, and we just came out of this whole budget commission process and almost went back into it over a tax levy argument in the city between the mayor and the city council, and it wasn't 36 hours before the overseer swooped in and just said, all right, everybody's got to sit down at the table and figure this out. And I see this level of scrutiny in all of the outlying communities that I'm just not seeing in the city of Providence.
And to your point, we had a budget commission that came out of the legislation, and Gina Raimondo was the one who was behind this, called the Municipal Pension Crisis Commission. And they met for 3 years. Over the last 2 years of the commission, which ended last summer, Angel Taveras didn't attend a single meeting.
Did he at least have a representative there?
No, he did not.
So as Mike, you and I like to say, denial ain't a river in Egypt, is it?
Oh.
We've only got a few more seconds, but how much money are we talking about at this point, by your guesstimation?
Well, it's at least $62 million. I think there's interest owed for as many as 20 years to the pension plan, and the number could be as high as $200 million.
Wow. And what has to happen to force a restatement? What has to happen? Who has to have this legal standing to actually bring this down?
Well, I think what's going to happen is a regulator is going to step in, either Mr. Nerona or the SEC itself is going to have to move in and do an investigation, because there are so many contingent accounting difficulties in the way they've accounted for this, and there's all kinds of double talk and talk of accrual accounting. In my opinion, what Mr. Hoyle and the Auditor General did right, what Mr. Hoyle said to me was false and misleading on its own. So you can read all of this on Go Local or on my RI Shrug blog spot.
Great. Just again, tell our listeners where they can follow you directly.
GoLocal.prov in politics. I'm one of the mindsetters there, and it's RI Shrugs, RISHRUGS.blogspot.com.
Professor Mike Riley, director of Default for Dummies. Mike, very last very quick question. Why do you think liberal Democrats or Democrats in general are just and there's an obvious answer to this. This is almost a rhetorical question, but why do you think they're so quick to go into denial mode on this? Are they that willing to play politics with the future of the future of the city of Providence?
Yeah.
Wow, that was pretty straightforward.
I was just reading, in honor of the anniversary today of Catholic Pudding, I was just reading a story about testimony of the Kennedys and some of the people involved in that Catholic Pudding, and his advice that was given to him by his lawyer has stood the test of time for many a Democrat, and that is say nothing.
Excellent. Folks, you've been listening to Mike Riley, principal of Beach Street Financial Services, constant contributor, Mind Center for GoLocalProv.com. And again, Mike, once again, where's your blog spot?
R.I. Shrugs, sort of like Atlas Shrugs.
Right.
.blogspot.com.
Super. Mike, thanks again, and we're not gonna make it so long before the next time you're on the show. I have a feeling that the Rhode Island soap opera, as we call it here, As the Stomach Turns, will continue to accelerate. Again, Mike Riley, you've been listening to The Coalition at coalitionradio.us, at facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, at the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. We blog, we stream, we write. Please listen to Bella Robinson's piece this week. Also, David Broussard weighs in about church architecture in downtown Providence. And you'll find our co-host Dave Fisher on GoLocalProv.com. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back with Representative Patricia Morgan, and we're going to talk legislative grants.
Beacon Shipping Logistics will ship any car, any vehicle, anywhere in the United States with door-to-door service. Just call 855-3-SHIP-IT. They ship vehicles for thousands of auto dealers throughout the country, so you know you can trust them to provide the most reliable auto transport in the industry. And they offer open or enclosed shipping for your precious cargo. Did you see a car online and can't get there? Let Beacon Shipping ship and deliver it right to your door. Need to get your boat from West Palm to Warwick Neck? Beacon can do it. Call Beacon Shipping Logistics for transporting one car to an entire fleet. Call 855-3-SHIP-IT or beaconshippinglogistics.com for service that shines. Let Beacon Shipping Logistics take the stress out of your life. Beacon Shipping Logistics provides the most honest auto transport service in the industry. Beacon Shipping Logistics, your one source for transporting one car or a whole fleet. Call 855-374-4748 for a free quote or beaconshippinglogistics.com.
Need a vacation but don't have the funds? Don't worry yourselves. Just stop by Halfway Tree Authentic Jamaican Cuisine for a quick trip to the islands. Enjoy some authentic Jamaican food from Halfway Tree, named Best of Rhode Island by Rhode Island Monthly Magazine. Plus, every Saturday, it's New England's #1 weekly Caribbean party with Paul Michael. Halfway Tree is located in downtown Providence at 150 Chestnut Street. Visit us online at halfwaytreeri.com. Halfway Tree is Rhode Island's leading source for authentic Jamaican food and vibes.
Superstar Vapor Pens have arrived. These 3-in-1 vapes come equipped with dry liquid atomizers, which allow them to vaporize a variety of blends, such as e-liquids, dry herbs, and CBD oils. The unit is rechargeable from any outlet, computer, or vehicle. Whatever your smoking pleasure, visit superstarvaporpens.com to see the latest products, e-liquids, and special offers. Become a premium e-liquid club member and get discounts, free shipping, and exclusive access to new products. Get the best. Superstar Vapor Pens. Superstarvaporpens.com or find them on Facebook and Twitter.
And yes, we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, beach explosion-free, civilly disobedient radio on the web at coalitionradio.us, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. We blog, we stream, we podcast. Again, Bella Robinson this week. We've got David Broussard this week, and of course, the gentleman I'm about to turn the mic over to, David Fisher, appearing as a guest mindsetter, referring to the wonderful process, rub and tug of legislative grants on GoLocalProv.com. Dave, we've got a special guest on the line, but why don't you set the backdrop and talk a little bit about your blog piece this week?
Yeah, I think we need a little bit of deep background on this. So this week, the Rhode Island General Assembly basically dispersed their legislative grant.